Hey, it's Khalil with the Cash Flow Contractor. Thanks for listening and tuning in. If you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, now's a great time to do it. If you are interested in building your construction business to be profitable and to run without you so you can have less stress, more time, and more money, we want to send you more content that can help you do that. I talk to contractors all the time who listen while they're driving from job site to job site, while they're taking care of stuff in the office or at home. And it's a great podcast for them because it gives them actionable ideas and strategies they can use inside their business in a conversational format with two goobers like me and Martin. So if you're interested in that, you want more strategies to help you grow and improve your business, subscribe now. Now, let's get into the show.
Is a general rule. They get to become market leaders by being people first companies. To be able to go from this company that's doing, 3 million today to a company that's doing, 80 in all of those areas is brutal. It's very, very, very difficult to pull off. We do clearly need to meet. That's clearly a thing. What we don't need to do is sit in meetings beyond accomplishing those goals. Most contractors, most of the people who have this know-how in their head do not have either the personality nor the time to slow down and write it down. But you know what I found they have?
Today's episode is sponsored by OpenPhone. It's the perfect business phone system for contractors that you can manage just from your cell phone. If you're interested in hearing more about OpenPhone, check out the show notes to get an offer directly from them. The link is right here, and you'll find it down the show notes. Thanks for checking out today's episode, brought to you by OpenPhone.
Expert advice, practical tips, real-life stories. Have less stress, more time, and more money in your business. Welcome to the Cash Flow Contractor.
Martin, I've been excited for this episode because I think there's a lot of
Absolutely
similarities between us and Chad, and I think he's got a wealth of knowledge that we're going to share with our listeners. So we want to talk about, you just released a book. It's going to kind of layer in between our conversation today, but Chad, we want to talk about how to become a market leader. We're promising that the listeners are going to get habits and strategies that the top contractors follow to get to the top. So why don't you kind of introduce this topic to us of becoming a market leader?
I'm happy to, and thank you so much for bringing me on. I completely agree. There's a lot of synergy and a lot of shared philosophy here. So I look forward to bringing that to your audience. I've been doing consulting for the construction industry for 17 years. And in that time, I've been very fortunate to work with now I think over 260 or so, 270 contractors. And some of those contractors, not all, I'll be honest, but some of those contractors are just extraordinarily well-run companies, right? And they have brought me in and brought my team in for different projects over the years. And what I've found is if I keep an open mind, and I always try to, I'm there learning as much as I'm there teaching, right? And what I've learned from what the very best of these organizations, what I've learned about what they do, really codified into a series of common threads that I endeavored to put forth in writing and put it into a book that I hope doesn't suck. And that's all I can promise is that I did my best to make sure this damn thing doesn't suck. And so the book is called Well Built, and we're very fortunate that it's been a great performing book in the 6 months since it's been released. And what we've done with that book is just simply tried to organize and bring some structure to the things that I really view as systems that the very best contractors that I've ever been exposed to, and I call them the top 2% of contractors, consistently do. And then what I've been able to do with implementing those same things in contractors that aren't in the top 2% to get them there.
Yeah. I'd be curious.
Perfect.
Let's talk about the individuals, right? So obviously some of the companies you're working with, you're dealing with sweet leadership that's fairly, several people, but sometimes it's just an owner, right? Let's talk about the individuals and kind of the habits they have. I'm curious, what's the difference in the individuals that you're working with that are operating at the top 2% and the ones that aren't? What are the differences there?
There are so many differences between the market leaders and the ones that are striving. And first off, let me also just call out that I think there are a lot of contractors that have no interest in being better companies, and I think that's okay. I don't think they're listening to this episode, by the way. I think if you're listening to stuff like the cash flow contractor, you're probably interested in being better tomorrow than you are today.
Yeah.
But really, I think we can all agree that there are lots of businesses, contractors, technology companies, and so on, that have no interest in being a better company. They just want to make what they're making today. They want to wind the sucker down someday, or maybe to give it to their kids, and they don't really care about being market leaders. So I'm leaving all of those off to the side. I'm just going to say, hey, you're not trying to be better. This isn't for you. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the market leaders and the market strivers, the ones that are trying to become better companies tomorrow and maybe have a dream of being a market leader in the future. I think the biggest differences, or the most obvious differences when I come in, is that market leaders have an incredible handle on their finances. They know where they are financially today. They know where they're going to be financially tomorrow. And they understand the drivers of that financial performance at a level where if they want to impact tomorrow, they can. They have things really boiled down to the leading indicator level, where the market strivers don't have an accurate P&L by the 15th. The market strivers can't really project their cash position. The market right? Like these are real problems that the people who aren't the market leaders are dealing with, that the market leaders can't even comprehend. They're like, how could you not know where your finances are? Except the truth is they were there someday. They were there one day before. They just forgot.
How does that switch? So for those strivers that don't have what's the switch that's flipped to get them to have their finances in order, and even just have that perception of that they need to have that?
It's a series of habits, and it's also expectations, man. Like it's, the expectations that you have about what information you ought to have access to. You have to decide that, like, how could I possibly run my business without these things, without this list of things? And then if you decided that, if you were unwilling to accept not having that information, what would have to be true? You'd have to have somebody in a position that could get you that information. One, you'd have to have systems and technology that ensured you got that information. Two, you'd have to have business processes that linked up naturally with your systems and technology to ensure that your people were doing it. And you'd fire people who refused. You would absolutely, it would be non-negotiable. When you were like, we're not going to get old Billy to use the software, but he's great, right? That wouldn't be okay. You'd be like, hey, Billy, on the software or gone. Sorry, one of those two things. And it's okay. We love you. I know you've been here for 25 years, but we can't afford to run our business the way we always have. And if that means that you're going to be like our best friend that doesn't work here anymore, we can. That's what's going to happen.
Hey, Khalil, I'd like to emphasize we did not choose Chad because of what he's saying now.
Right.
Yes.
I mean,
we didn't.
We harp on that so much. People are going, oh, they found another one. You came up with that independently, and you're also going to have other things that you talk about.
Yeah.
Sure. But that's just one of them. You talk about habits and strategies, and I would say one core habit, just non-negotiable core habit, is they build a budget. They monitor their progress on the budget every single month. They adjust their spending habits based on actual performance versus budget every single month. They build their budgets based on very conservative estimates, and they run their business that way. And then they strive for goals, and they stack money, and they create financial, they remove financial stress. They don't prioritize the owner's distributions over the company's financial health. These are the different habits that get them to the top. And then once they're there, they're just sort of ingrained habits. These are all just natural habits. And yes, I mean, look, they buy boats and they buy third and fourth and fifth homes, and that's awesome. They should, but it's because there's just so much of a surplus at that point that, but what they also do, they buy companies, and they're extraordinarily generous.
Yeah. They treat their teams well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the habits is finances. They have that perspective of, hey, we're going to remove all this financial stress that we have because it's really limiting us from making better decisions, from running a well-built company.
You got
it. Quick ad break to tell you about Growth Kits. This is actually my company, and you may have seen it around. But I started Growth Kits because I kept seeing contractors struggle with the same problems over and over again. They were trying to be better organized inside of their business, but kept drowning in the day-to-day operations. So whether you need a better CRM, a hiring process that actually works, or you just want to make sense of the tech stack inside of your business, we have systems that are built specifically for contractors. You can either grab our DIY guides and implement these systems yourself, or you can hire us to work with you on it and implement it for you. No massive consulting fees, no year-long commitments or monthly retainers. Just pick what you need right now and let's get it done together. Head over to growth-kits.com to see how we can help you construct your success one system at a time. That's growth-kits.com, or just click the link in the show notes. Now, back to the show. What's another habit that's outside of that? Maybe we can focus on maybe culture or team a little bit. I'm sure there's a perspective in there, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, so when I think they, as a general rule, they get to become market leaders by being people first companies.
What does that mean?
It means that they put relationships with their employees at the very top of their list of priorities.
Mm.
And they recognize that people today have a lot of options of where they work. They are inundated with recruiting. In the construction industry, are you kidding me? There's so much. There's a huge war for talent.
Yeah.
And so they know that, and they take nothing for granted, and they make it a priority to be an incredible place to work that takes great care of their people. And that comes before everything else. And if you prioritize that, those people take great care of your customers. If they take great care of your customers, and by the way, they give their all, right? They're optimally efficient. They don't take advantage of the company. They're not out there in the field, taking 2-hour cigarette breaks and hiding from people. They're working, right? Like, they're getting stuff done because they work for a company that respects them and they respect the company. And, you create this virtuous cycle. So you're making better profits because you're not wasting money on people who are angry at the company. You're actually probably paying a little more, right? You're bonusing a little more. You're being a little more generous. And the return on that is that, people like you more, and they're happier, and they give more, and all that kind of stuff. They take better care of your customers because all that is happening. Guess what else you get to do? You get to charge a couple extra bucks.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Just a couple extra bucks. Nothing crazy, but a couple extra bucks. And because you can charge a couple extra bucks, you can make a little more profit than the next guy. And you can build this reputation for being different and better and worth it. And all of that comes from being people first. So it's employees first, it's customers second, right? But it's trade contractors, partners, all that kind of stuff. Guess what they are? They're your people.
Yeah.
You with me? If you're doing business through these folks, you better treat them like your people. You better treat them really well. You better be generous. You better be kind. You better be ethical.
Well, ethical is the big one. I mean, just paying on time,
Yeah, how about that?
Right. So, okay.
Richard Branson said something along those lines. He said he just cared about his employees, didn't worry about his customers. Take care of them, they'll take care of the customers, and that'll all take care of you. Yeah.
Yeah. It's and
Worked pretty well for him.
All kinds of quotes that I've heard over the years from some of these really inspirational people firsthand. And one of my favorites is what makes this industry really easy? If all you do is just build stuff with your friends.
There you
Enjoy the people you work with.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, real quickly before we jump off that subject, when you get a bad fit, and it's a bad fit, like it's a cultural fit, somebody's technically, they can do either the technology, the machinery, the craft, whatever. What do you do? What do you tell your people you're consulting with when it's a bad fit culturally?
I hate to scare people. I really hate to scare people, but I got to answer the question. The question was asked directly. I'm going to answer directly. I tell them to fire people a lot. I have, so the first thing that we do is we start with an organizational discovery, and we get to know everybody in the company. We talk to everybody. We hear, we see it, we hear it, we feel it, we put our hands around it. And inevitably, we will typically come back and sort of be like, hey, here's 3 people that got to get right or get out of here.
What about the get right part? Does that work? I mean, this is a major question to hear every day. Oh man, he's been with us all this time. He's good at this. He's got a family. It's Christmas time, blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm interested if you think what percentage of them can be fixed if it's a cultural deal.
Okay.
An attitude deal.
About 30%, this is anecdotal, obviously off the hip, okay, but about 30% of the time, okay, the reason they're angry, the reason they are a bad culture fit, the reason they're a bad culture fit is because the company is really screwing up.
Okay.
And so, Martin, when that is the case, when you've got somebody who is not in and of themselves a cancer, but you've got someone who is currently creating bad vibes because they are disgruntled for very legitimate reasons, those people can be salvaged. And I would say, if the company makes the changes, opens lines of communication, and creates shared expectations, like, hey, we understand that you're currently not giving everything you got, and I appreciate your candor with us about the fact that you're holding back because you feel that the company is disrespecting you in these ways. And you know what? We reflected on it. We agree. Here's the things that we're committed to doing, but these are the things we need from you. And if you can't give us these things, you won't be here, because we're committed to giving you those things, right? Like we're going to do our part. You have to do your part.
Quid pro quo.
Yeah.
And I would say a certain percentage of the time it is possible. And then here's the answer, which is the large majority of the time, just get rid of them.
Yeah.
The large majority of the time you do have somebody that's just, they're not going to change. But there is a solid percentage of the time. It's not a non-zero, it's a non-zero amount that's worth paying attention to. The company is the problem. The leadership is the problem. And actually, where you see departments where you've got like 3 cancers and you've got a boss who's like, I have crappy people, right? Yeah. It's the boss.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think along those lines, I always say that performance plans don't work unless they're for the company. If the person's a bad fit, they're a bad fit. But if the company's not performing for the person and that's why they're a bad fit, then the company needs to figure it out. It's the manager, it's the systems you have in place, it's that you're promoting everyone around them and not that person for some reason, whatever it is. So yeah, definitely agree with that. I think for a lot of our listeners, I know they like these, sometimes it feels like platitudes of like, yeah, you got to treat your people first and you got to, have this winning culture and all these different things. How do you've got 5 people on your team. How do you really elevate those people and really treat them well? How can we do that in a practical way?
Practically, you've got to, in my view, you've got to stand for something. You've got to be doing what you're doing for a reason. And ideally, you'd be striving towards something.
Why is that?
Because truly, and there have been studies on this. This is not, just a platitude. There's a great body of research on happiness. And it comes from a few different places, but my favorite 2 places to reference here are the Happiness Project and the Happiness Advantage.
Sean Acor, is it?
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, great.
I think so. This body of research has pretty well proven that the thing that makes people happy is not rewards. It's actually the striving towards something. It's doing things that make you feel proud of yourself. And when we are working together toward a common goal and we can celebrate every day because every day we did the stuff that we said we were going to do and it's toward something meaningful, that's where happiness and engagement comes from. And when every day is just like yesterday and we're not sure what we're doing and it's just sort of a grind and we're not working towards stuff, work is work, and I can have fun at work and I can think that my colleagues are cool and like all that kind of stuff, but work is devoid of a deeper sense of meaning and therefore happiness. And people spend way too many hours a day at work to not feel like what they do matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that resonates with a lot of people. A lot of people just go through the motions with their head down and they don't have anything to look up towards. So give them something to
Yeah,
look up towards that they can strive after and feel like they're making progress and they're on a journey.
that's right.
Yeah.
And to even celebrate just the simple, that's why I say stand for something. Even just the simple stuff like, hey, we do the right thing when nobody's looking.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great, and I a lot of our clients end up having that as one of their values, right? Like it's great. It's a wonderful value. And side note, I think it's one of those things that these are why contractors are my people, man. I really believe that fundamentally they're just salt of the earth, good folks that are trying to do, to do good work and make a buck. Like that's, and I think that's a like a fair trade, darn it. Right. And so do the right thing when nobody's looking. If you stand for that, and today, instead of cutting the corner that you could have cut, you do the right thing, even when nobody was looking, you can pick up the phone and call your buddy, you can call that foreman and say, hey man, I just want to say, great job. That's what we stand for. And when that dude goes home, he's going to be like, you know what? My boss is cool.
Yeah.
I work at a good company. I'm proud of myself. And that's what makes people happy. It's just that simple, So if all you do is talk about money and all you do is, talk about what has to get done today and the work and the work and the work, you got to stand for something, man. And you got to be ideally striving towards something that people can believe in and get behind, and they can see themselves as a part of that picture. That I think that's how you get the best out of your people. And you want to have a great culture. You want to put your people first. Invest in those areas.
Yeah. And we've already said this, but also don't tolerate bad employees because nothing will, what do we say, Martin? Nothing will get.
Well, nothing will ruin a good employee faster than them watching you tolerate a bad one.
Yeah.
Amen.
All pays the same.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yep. Your A players do not want to be on a C team. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Hey, you. Yes, you. Please take a moment and subscribe to our podcast. If you're getting value from what we're talking about here on the Cash Flow Contractor, please do us a favor and just click subscribe. If you're on YouTube, click subscribe. Apple Podcasts, hit subscribe. Spotify, hit subscribe. And if you want our weekly newsletter straight to your inbox every single week, click subscribe down in the show notes. Really, really easy. I know that you're probably listening while you're driving from job site to job site, or you're working on something in the office or at home, or you're mowing the lawn, but just take a second and subscribe for us. It would mean the world to us. We know that you're trying to build a profitable construction business that operates without you. We're trying to build a profitable podcast that operates with us, and you're a huge part of that. So please subscribe. We'd love to help you even more and help other contractors find our content as well. We all do better when we share what works. Thanks for listening. Let's get back to the episode.
So we've talked about those two things. I want to think more like strategic here, because a lot of listeners are thinking, man, I want to grow. I want to be the market leader in, my industry or maybe just in my local region. And we talked a little bit beforehand about how they try to be, when they're little, they're trying to be all things to all people. And that's probably a good thing. At a very small stage, because it allows you to get the work you need. It allows you to actually get money into your bank account, right? But what's wrong with that approach if you want to be a market leader from the get-go?
So, I understand the need to eat. We all have it. We all have to be flexible. And some of the companies that I've worked with for a long time, I know that, I was either there with them during their backstory or I know their backstory because, we've just grown very close over the years, but, they'll have, stories about like, yeah, man, when we first started, today we're drywall contractor. When we first started, man, if somebody wanted us to fix their roof, we'd be like, yep, we're on it. Whatever you need, man, we're on it. The problem with that as you grow is that it's very difficult to multiply your success across many, many areas at one time, unless you just have an unlimited bank account. And almost no contractors at that stage have an unlimited bank account. If you did, you probably would start a tech company. What the hell are you doing starting a construction company? What's wrong with you? I'm joking. But you don't have an unlimited bank account. So because of that, and you're cash flowing your growth, right? You're funding your own growth, self-funded. You have to replicate your business, and therefore you have to narrow what you do so it's much easier to replicate. If I do, paving, concrete, masonry, waterproofing, utilities and excavation today, right? I'm running around trying to do all that stuff. I get it. I understand why you're taking it all on. But you to be able to go from this company that's doing 3 million today to a company that's doing 80 in all of those areas is brutal. Like there's no it's very, very, very difficult to pull off. So narrowing that focus, or narrowing at least your geographic range, or narrowing the type of work that the customers that you're going to service, all of these are things that help you to more easily replicate and what is often known as scale. Scale is it's a good word, but it's one that confuses the hell out of people.
Yeah.
And so I like to just sort of say what scale means is replicate and grow.
Yeah.
Right. That's what it means. And so to replicate and grow your business, trying to be all things to all people. And then there's obviously, then there's this other problem that comes in, which is, how do I market this business? It's like, we'll do your anything. It's very difficult to find. If you do everything, it's very difficult to find you. If you narrow your focus, it's much easier to find you. You are the go-to for X. It's a much easier thing to market.
Yeah. And I mean, when you can replicate, it allows you to have those efficiencies, which then can increase your margins, which then can fund your growth to get to the next stage.
100%.
So but it's not just about, like, yes, that's the strategy. Let's get down to the grant, like the really the practical level. What does that look like for your team? Because we talked about before the podcast, we want to have probably a lot of generalists when we're starting out. Why is that? And then how does that change over time?
Yeah. So when you're little, you don't have the ability to, again, you don't have the financial ability to just hire for all these, specialists. It's very likely, and in my opinion, strongly encouraged that, for example, your estimating team is your project management team when you are very small. When you're small, everything you can make a direct cost, right? Everything you can possibly job cost is worth job costing, and carrying any overhead, that's every piece of overhead has got to be really hemmed and hawed over, right? You got to really, really question, right? That estimating department. And so you need to have people wear multiple hats, because you can't specialize. You can't afford 9 people. You can afford 3, and every one of those 3 has got to do 3 things. But as you grow, what you'll find is that this person that's wearing these 3 hats, they're actually really good at one of those hats. They're serviceable at another, and they're downright bad at the other, but they've been like a body. Right. And so as you grow, those, if you don't specialize, you're going to start to find that you have roadblocks to growth in this key area, because it turns out that person who's really good at estimating and you've had project managing can't manage their way out of a paper bag once they have 3 jobs to manage. So all of a sudden you say, okay, you know what I really have is I have an estimator and I need a project manager, and that's okay once you can afford to do it. And then what's also true, particularly with the PM estimator conversation, is that the business, as the business grows, it really has to have a continual, nonstop, serious estimating effort. So you can't have somebody who's like, oh no, I'm too busy to estimate. Can't afford it. So you got to have somebody who's cranking out estimates to keep the team busy. And then, what's funny is over the course of time, you may start to, and this is almost inevitable for every company that starts off with this hybrid PM estimator role, is that when they specialize, they feel like they lose a part of their special sauce because we had these people owning it from cradle to grave, and didn't we love that? And it wasn't that special for us. And you know what? Maybe it has to be a part of your brand promise as soon as you can afford to start cross-training people again. Right?
Yeah.
That's okay. But there's probably a time when you have to specialize because of what I described. And maybe you never lose that. Like, all of our PMs estimate when they're not PMing, but we also hired 3 full-time estimators so that we don't starve because we can't afford the peaks and valleys.
Do you feel
that's
like
a practical example, and I could
What?
probably do the same
Yeah.
across different departments. But
No, that's a great example. And I think the challenge when you specialize too early, like you said, is you end up not being able to grow because all of your capital is tied up in this overhead of,
That's right.
so you're not able to actually get there. But I'm curious, do you find that whenever people are trying to be those market leaders, and let's say they've gotten to those specialist roles, or they try to go back to the hybrid of, hey, they try to go back to the hybrid of gated estimators, but now maybe that it's hard to find those roles of the hybrid that can do it at that scale, or no, it's possible and they have to train them?
You have to train them.
Okay.
You have to train them. If you want to, what I have found is that from a recruiting standpoint, it is extremely difficult to find people who, from outside the company, who have the ability to wear these multiple hats.
Yeah.
But if it's essential to your culture that they do wear multiple hats, you have got to be excellent at pumping that out through internal training programs.
And I'd love to focus on that, internal training programs. When's the right time to put those in place? What should they look like? I think it's more important than ever, especially when people are trying to hire for roles that are really hard to find. And so they're pulling people from different domains to try to fill these roles. What does a great training program look like? And how does that really help people become the market leader?
I believe that is overhead that once you have reached a point where number one, you could afford it.
Yeah.
Number two, and it is essential. Like, you got to be able to afford it. I understand it's a lot of money to pay for an internal training program. Side note, you probably aren't hiring a full-time trainer, right? But you probably do need some dedicated HR resource to manage all this. And just because you're doing an internal training program doesn't mean that you're always using internal trainers. You may have some external people as a part of your owned training program. That's also possible, right? So sorry, just talk about, like, I think the right way to pull it off, even like for the huge companies, is a hybrid where you have some internal trainers and you have some third-party trainers that you're weaving into the equation. But the right time to do it, assuming you check the can afford it box, is once you know what the Acme Construction Co. way needs to look like, you need to set that forth in writing in every feasible area of your business, and you need to empower people on your team to replicate the Acme Construction Co. way. And so that's probably sooner than you think. It's probably earlier than you have in your mind. And again, just keep in mind that there's this hybrid role. Like, you're going to do some internal training, you're going to do some third-party training, but it's going to be your owned training program. At that stage. But what we know is you cannot, if you're going to experience significant growth, like, I'll call it, you're already a mature business and you're going to maintain a growth rate over 10% a year. Our average client has about 150 employees. Our average client wants to grow at about 15 to 20% per year at that scale, right? Like, that's the kind of experience that we are most involved with. With that game plan, you cannot rely on finding people in the market that fit.
Yeah.
You've got to find people who have the talent, the mindset. You're hiring for a certain level of intelligence and a certain level of fit, and you're training the rest.
Yeah. And I think that's something that
You
people
know,
in our audience really get wrong is they try to put out this Indeed ad. We're going to find the right person and then they're going to make it work. And then
Yeah.
there's no real onboarding. It's like, all right, here's your toolbox. Let's go. And without those intentional onboarding systems, intentional training systems, you're really just, putting it up to chance that this works out. And no wonder you get frustrated. No wonder your churn with employees is so high.
Quick ad break. If you're like most contractors I talk to, you're probably drowning in day-to-day operations. I see it time and time again. You're wearing too many hats and there's no way off of the hamster wheel. That's exactly why I put together a free guide. It's called 24 Things You Need to Hire the Perfect Assistant. Now, I put this guide together to help any small business owner delegate over 50% of their current workload and buy back 20 hours of their time. And you may think that's unrealistic, but the most successful contractors I know all have one thing in common: a full-time assistant who helps them run their business. And this guide walks you through everything you need to know about finding and training the perfect assistant, from creating clear expectations all the way to building out the right systems. It's not a fluffy PDF, it's really to the point, but it's still over 35 pages of actual practical steps that you can use right now. I've included templates, examples, and real processes that we use to help other contractors implement the right executive assistant. So the link for this guide is in the show notes. You can click it and download it. It'll be sent right to your email. Now, back to the episode.
I want to get a little more granular, follow it on the same subject though, because I bump against this all the time. You write the system. We're telling them, that's what we're saying. Write the systems. Really? How do I do that? People hang up on that. And I mean, workflow is not exactly the same as, overall workflow, but how do you get people to actually do that? I know what we try to do, and maybe half never get it done. Well, everybody knows. No, they don't. And if you're scaling 10% a year with 150, you're going to have turnover in employees and you're going to be adding employees.
Yep.
And what are they going to know? So anyway, how do you get people literally to write a system?
All right. So here's what I've found. And this is, you talk about granular. We're there, buddy. But here it is. Okay. No, it's great, Martin. I think it's because it is into the weeds of like, it sounds good, right? Yeah. But how do I
actually do it?
Here's what I found. Most contractors, most of the people who have this know-how in their head do not have either the personality nor the time to slow down and write it down. But you know what I found they have? They have trucks and they drive. You know what else they have? They have people in their lives. Maybe it's a wife. Maybe it's an admin. Okay. But, and maybe it's a consultant, which is a lot of the times what we're ending up doing, right? Somebody on our staff, which is all good. But note, it's a junior staffer at that point, right? Like that's who we're putting on it. To get on the phone and have somebody say, how do you do this? And then they just talk about it.
Yeah.
And then the person says, and then what? And then they keep talking about it. And then they say, what happens when this occurs? And then they tell you how they want that handled. And magically, by the time they get to their end of the drive, you've got your estimating freaking manual built.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This is what we do. And it's like, all you got to do is talk about what you get the absolute most credible people in your organization, the people that you want to say, who are the people in your company that you're like, man, if I could just replicate that guy, if I could just take and do a photocopy of Steve, right? Then you want Steve to be the one who's being interviewed about this part of your business: estimating, project management, collections, purchasing, fill in the blank, right? You want them talking about that in your business. Get that to be the person that somebody, I don't care who, interviews and gets all of the genius out of their head and gets it down on paper. And then once it is down on paper, you have that genius look at it and say, is this what you do? And they go, huh, that is what I do. Turns out like I can make more Steves Because if we can just get more people doing exactly what Steve does, we can replicate that. So at the granular level, the answer is don't ask these people to write it. They're not going to write it. Fit it into their drive time. I'm telling you, they all drive. They're all busy and they're sitting in damn traffic. And you can get them for 30 minutes and ask them questions and get it all out of their head and onto paper. And ta-da! It's not that complicated. It's just about, for the companies that we work with, I'll tell you, the math is about 35 to 50 hours of interviews is what we do to get an entire manual built. And we can, and we'll bring them back like a boom. Is this it? It's a book. They're like, holy smokes, we're smart.
Yeah. Well, what I love about what you just said is that you didn't come up with this grand manual of SOPs before even talking to someone or before hiring the role. You have these SOPs for that role. You're talking to people that are actually doing these things. Right. What did you do? Right? How do you do it? Instead of saying, oh, okay, well, this would be the perfect process. What if we did it this way and that way? And then it never gets used and it's actually meaningless because it's not what you actually do. So it's fantastic.
And processes. And you have to iterate on these things. Yes. Okay. So so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get it all out of Steve's head. And then we're all going to start doing what Steve does. But you know what else is going to happen is as we go, if we have the right kind of culture where everybody is seeking for the best way of doing things, people are going to raise their hand and be like, hey, this part seems dumb. I don't know why we're doing it this way. And then we're going to make it better. We're going to make it smarter. Or you're going to hire a consultant like me or like you who's going to look at it and say, hey, that part's dumb. Like you shouldn't do it that way. That's not a best practice. And so the deal is what you really truly want to do is you want to make sure that what you're doing is the Acme Construction Co. way, the Your Co. way of doing things, and that the Your Co. way is vetted for stupidity.
Yeah.
And that you remove things that are inefficient and dumb or costly or create safety risk or whatever else.
But once you do have
to get it just started, somebody listening to us could dictate the procedures for opening the office and opening the shop and where you park your trucks. I mean, you can just do something like that. Get it done.
And what I know you're not going to do is write it down, Sparky. I know that.
Right.
You're too damn busy and you can't stop your fidgeting and you're an entrepreneur. I love you. You're my guy. I love you. But call your wife and say, grab a notepad.
Yeah. Yep. Grab a notepad.
There you go. Okay.
And I think what it allows you to do when you have it written down, like you said, you're able to then see where are the inefficiencies, where are the things that we're missing, where are the gaps, problems, opportunities, right? And you can see that, oh, we should actually be implementing this software here. Like we don't have a software for that and we could implement that. Oh, hey, we actually need to hire for this because it's wasting this person's time. And now, so I love that.
It's not until you see it set out in front of you that you can oftentimes assess it for efficiency, right?
Yeah.
And to optimize. So, but that is the first step. The first step is just figure out the current way that it happens when it happens at its best. That's not to say that it is the best it's ever going to be. I promise you're going to change it 100 times. But if it's not in writing to start with, it makes it impossible to teach.
Yeah.
You got nothing to change either.
Yeah.
Trying to put a bolt in the air and there's nothing there.
Quick ad break to tell you a little bit about OpenPhone. If you're a contractor that has a single cell phone, you're probably inundated with text messages and phone calls, oftentimes that you can't be responsive to or that you can't answer at all. So what's the solution? You can buy another office line with Verizon or AT&T, and you can have an iPhone that is passed around from employee to employee, depending on who's on call. But what if there's a better way? What if there's a way that you can have all your phone calls recorded to go back and listen to later, transcribed with summaries so that you can get a quick glance at what happened during the phone call, and even connect it to your CRM where all your other customer information is? OpenPhone is the perfect solution because it does just that. You're able to add all the users you need to for whoever needs to have access to the lines for your company phone. And then you can also find all of the information you need at a glance with a centralized location for all phone calls and text messages with your customers. Whether it's for marketing, for sales, or for service, OpenPhone is the perfect solution for you and your team. If you're interested, we have an offer down the show notes from OpenPhone. Please click the link down the show notes, or you can see it here on your screen to be able to find more information about OpenPhone. Thanks for listening. Back to the episode. So
we're talking about how to become a market leader. We've talked about finance. That is the most important one because it allows you to fund all these other things that you need to do, like having good people, like focusing and getting down into a specific niche so you can have your expertise, you can have efficiencies that increase your margins, allow you to fund your growth, and then you have systems in place. Anything else that we're missing for becoming?
We skipped over purpose.
And purpose is a huge
You
one,
have to
and
have
that
a
ties into
vision,
people.
purpose.
Yeah, for sure.
So
What are we missing, Chad?
It's still a whole bunch. I'll
Yeah,
be honest
a lot.
with you. Unfortunately, it's still a whole bunch. When you talk about what the market leaders do, and that truly is like when you compare. So again, I talked to you about my 150 average contractor. My average client is not a market leader. They're striving to be a market leader.
Right.
We have some clients who we've helped to become market leaders. We have other clients who were market leaders when they hired us. But the true, like, there's still a long list, but I'm going to give you another one that is it's essential. It's right along with everything else that we've been talking about, is that they've mastered internal communication.
Why is that so important?
So they have you have limited time. All of your people need to be optimized every day, every week, every month, every quarter, every year. Your average person's going to work 2,000 hours a year, right? How many of those hours are we spending communication with each other? I just in a meeting, it's right on the top of my mind. I was just in a meeting 2 days ago. Leadership team for this company that is right on their way to being a market leader. They're not quite there yet, but I would put them into the top 10% in their field. And we did a meeting audit. And we identified 1,500. I think I remember the exact number. 1,580 management hours that we could save if we got more efficient in meetings in 2025 compared to 2024, right? And that's like almost a full-time executive, right? That we're trying to give them back in terms of cost. And so when you ask, like, okay, so bottom line is, let's talk about the fundamentals. We've all got to be in the loop and knowing what we need to know to do our job at the best of our ability, so that we deliver on customer expectations, so that we don't have waste on rework and stuff that we have to do twice and 3 times because it wasn't done correctly. We have to be really, really good at communicating so everybody knows exactly what was expected and everybody has that information in a timely fashion so there's no waste. So we do clearly need to meet. That's clearly a thing. What we don't need to do is sit in meetings beyond accomplishing those goals. So mastering your meetings is a habit of industry leaders, market leaders, that the younger you can master that, the faster you will go, for all of the reasons, that you prevent all the problems and you eliminate waste. You can't have your best people tied up in not working, but in meetings, but you must have meetings. Obviously it's a critical thing. If you don't have meetings, you're going to have people out of the loop. Yeah. So how do we strike that sort of balance? And in the book, I actually get into, here are the meetings you need to have. Here's what they should look like. Here's how long they should be. Here's the frequency they should be. And if there's one thing that for the one person who's listening that won't read the book, because I'm sure the rest will buy it. But for
they're already looking.
They're already looking. They've clicked. They've bought it. I get it. Hey, be careful. You're driving. I understand.
Yeah.
But no, it's for those people who may not read the book, I'll give you the number one takeaway from that portion of the book, which is, I cannot tell you of all the amazing heavy lifting, hard work that my team has put in with clients. The number one phone call we get and thank you letter we get is, how did we ever operate before the morning huddle? Mm-hmm. How did we ever operate before we implemented morning team huddles? And I'm always like, God, I can't believe that's this. Did you see that awesome spreadsheet we built for you? Like, it's the huddle advice. Really, that's the thing. But that is the thing. It is often the biggest game changer that we deliver, is helping people to have effective morning 15-minute morning huddles to get aligned and to make sure that just creates accountability, efficiency, teamwork, culture, fun, right? Focus, like all this kind of stuff. And if we can have daily huddles and be really effective with those, winning every day becomes easier, and winning, days turn into weeks and turn into months and turns into years and turns into careers.
Can you give us a rundown of, hey, this is the perfect 15-minute huddle?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. So we start off with each attendee. First off, you got to keep your attendee list to what's appropriate. When you're talking at morning huddles, I oftentimes will, it depends. If you're a general contractor, I like team huddles. So your PM, your senior PM, your PX, your APMs, your whatever, you get what I'm saying, and your supers and your assistant supers, all that jazz. On 123 Main Street have a huddle, and you have each job has a daily huddle. If you're a trade contractor, I actually like doing a sort of like a PM and field huddle, but not job by job, because oftentimes you're spread across multiple jobs.
Right.
So that group will get together and have this huddle, and maybe it's broken down geographically or whatever else. It's so case by case. I'm sorry that hopefully I'm sparking.
Should we keep it
something
to
the audience.
a minimum on the list?
Correct. You want it as few as you can get away with. I'd rather you have 20 huddles going on in your business a day than one huddle across, a group of people that it's going to last 3 hours. Have 20 huddles so that the smaller groups can be efficient together.
Okay.
Anyway, so there's that. And then the structure is person by person, the same 4 questions. Based on your goals yesterday, did you accomplish them?
Yeah.
That's number 1. So there's your accountability piece. Hey, yes. And I like when the boss of that meeting is the one who knows that person's goals from yesterday. So they say, hey, yesterday you were going to get, completed on elevation B, and you were going to stock elevation C. Is that where we are? Right? If not, what needs to happen? Right? So that's like the kind of, right. So it's not a 5th question, or I'm sorry, it's a 5th question, but it's only as needed. Right. So like, did you accomplish your goals yesterday? That's question number 1. Assuming the answer is yes. Next question is, what are your goals for today? Right. The next question behind that is, what do you need from the team or from me to be successful? And then question number 4, is there any communication? Is there anybody you need to talk to after this meeting?
And that's it.
Right? That's it. It's that simple. And we go around the horn, and all 4 guys go, or all 5 people go, right? And we finish up, and we say, all right, cool, good huddle. And then with just a quick reiteration, like at the end, I'll say, hey, Khalil, I'm going to give you a call in 15 minutes. If that's cool. Yep. All right, good. I just need to talk to you about X, like we just discussed. All right, good. That's it. Huddle over. And when you're first starting off on this, if your gears are really squeaky, right? In other words, if you find that you're losing a lot of money in production, your guys are all over the place, you got a lot of rework, it's really frustrating, you might do 2 huddles a day. You might do a morning huddle, and you might close the day with a huddle, because you're looking to create more accountability. But overall, I like a 5-day-a-week huddle, and I like it across every department, every functional unit. And my gosh, it creates so much efficiency, and it minimizes the need for those, 3-hour marathon meetings that you're having.
Yeah, no, that's great. So we talk about the meeting aspect, but communication doesn't just happen in meetings. It's also through channels of communication. What about, how can they master those channels of communication?
I mean, pick up the phone, start there.
That's a big one. Pick up the phone. I think, having one place to look is a huge one. Like all these internal, or text messages that just happen between people, and it's on this thing that nobody can see, but we're talking about the project that everybody should see. I think having that one place to look, it's harder. It's easier said than done, but
it is. And there are, now we're into like different tech and all that type of stuff. As a rule, whatever tech you're using, there's a great book. I recommend it to people all the time. And it's an oldie but a goodie, and it keeps getting refreshed. It's called Getting Things Done by David Allen.
I was going to say that.
And David Allen has, to me, it is the paramount of advice on organization. I've never seen anything better, and I've read a lot. And my favorite advice from the book, amongst tons of advice, is have as few inboxes as you can possibly get away with. And his definition of an inbox is just places that you have to monitor.
Yeah.
Right. And so in your business, minimize your inboxes. Don't be like, well, we've got a Slack channel for this, and then we picked up a Teams channel for that, and then we're going to use email for this, but I also might text you. Like, don't do that to people.
Yeah.
Minimize the number of things that people have to check. If you're going to use Teams, use the hell out of Teams and own it. If you don't like Teams, figure out, maybe you use a text thread. Maybe you use, it's all good. Just minimize your tech.
Yeah. Great book. Highly, highly recommend. And you can listen to the ebook on Spotify if you subscribe for free. So that's a good one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Little inside ball there. Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much, Chad. So just to recap, there's so many different things that you can focus on to be a market leader. If you want to be a market leader, buy the book. And we'll link to that in the show notes. But the 5 things we covered today are handling your finances, putting your people first, standing for something, and having a purpose, narrowing your focus, and then lastly, mastering that internal communication. Thanks for recapping the morning huddle for us. Chad, tell us a little bit about Well Built and how people can find you.
Yeah, so Well Built is we're dedicated to working with the construction industry only. All we do is work with contractors. We do work with service contractors as well as construction contractors. What we find is a lot of contractors have both divisions, and a lot of them should be exploring a service or maintenance division as well. So we do have that capacity, our focus is helping middle market contractors who want to be market leaders to achieve that. We build and implement strategic business plans and really become partners in our clients' companies. We work with companies over long haul life cycles. We also do a little project work, but that's not really what we're commonly brought in for. I'm very fortunate. I've been able to build a team of 12 people and growing across the country who are construction and contractor experts and who know a whole heck of a lot more about it than I do. I've been a consultant. I've never been in the trenches, man. And my, all of my people have been in the trenches. That's what they've done. They come from contracting backgrounds. And so we write a lot. We speak a lot. There's a lot of interesting, at least I think interesting, unbiased content out there that we create. Follow me on LinkedIn. Follow our team on LinkedIn. Well Built Construction Consulting is it's the full name of the company. It's probably one word too many. Anyway, Well Built, check that out, the book. And we also have a podcast, which is the Morning Huddle Construction Show. Funny enough, right? I call it the Morning Huddle because I think it's the most valuable thing that you can do. So the Morning Huddle Construction Show. .com if you want to learn more about that.
Absolutely. We'll link to all those
one
things.
thing that we quote Brian Tracy on all the time is he said the foundation of all success, both personal and professional, is clarity. And what you did today was clear.
Hey, thank you.
I mean, clarity. Yeah. Oh, I get that. I understand that. I can do that.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
It's great.
I really appreciate that. I tried to write the book that way. I promise if you read the book, you'll find that several times I take concepts that most people are throwing buzzwords at, and I just try to, make sure that it's abundantly clear. Like what I did with scale, for example, right? Like it drives me nuts when I listen to stuff and I can't follow it, right? So that's what it is. That's
scaling is also a phenomenon where calcium precipitates out and nothing moves.
Thank you.
I mean, that when I hear scale coming from a certain industry, that's the first thing I think of.
Yeah.
I mean, not for long, but.
Wow, this has been a pleasure, Chad. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time, man. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I love what you're doing.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
You made it to the end of the episode, but before you go, if you found yourself thinking about growing your construction business while listening today, I want to share something with you. It's called our 24 Things to Hiring and Training the Perfect Executive Assistant for Your Construction Business. And it's a free guide that we've created. It's not theory. It's what we actually use to help contractors hire the perfect executive assistant. And really, we help you find ways to delegate over 50% of your current workload and get back 20 hours of your time every single week. You didn't start your construction business to just be doing admin work, to be buried in paperwork and endless admin tasks. This is the guide that shows you exactly how to find and train someone who can actually take all that weight off of your shoulders. So this is a real actionable, great PDF that has templates and processes. It's really, really great. And I want you to check it out, even just to get your feedback and how we can make it even more valuable. But I know that you're gonna love it. The link is in the show notes. Please download it. Would love to see how much of an impact it makes on you and your business. Thanks for listening to the full episode. Check out the guide. It's free. No reason to hesitate. No reason to wait. Download it now. And before you go, I just want to ask for your gracious subscription to our podcast. So if you have 2 seconds, it means the world to us. Just subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or if you'd like our weekly newsletter delivered to your inbox whenever we release an episode, please subscribe in the show notes. Every week, we're talking about real strategies on how you can grow and build a profitable construction business that runs without you, so you can have less stress, more time, and more money. Click subscribe wherever you listen to the show, and thank you again for checking out the Cashflow Contractor. See you on the next episode.